Have you ever agreed to something and immediately felt tired? Not because the task was hard, but because you didn't want to say yes in the first place. And yet, you did. Later, you feel drained, maybe irritated, maybe quietly resentful. And you wonder, why is it so hard to set boundaries? Setting boundaries sounds simple, but for many people, it feels uncomfortable, confusing, or even wrong. You may know you need boundaries, yet still struggle to set them. You might worry about hurting someone, about being misunderstood, about being seen as selfish or difficult. So instead of setting boundaries, you adjust yourself. You stay quiet. You say yes when you mean no. You tolerate things that drain you, and slowly, that becomes exhausting. Healthy boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting your energy and being honest about your limits. A boundary is simply a clear line between what you can give and what you cannot. Many people struggle with boundaries because they were never taught that they're allowed to have them. If you grew up in an environment where your needs were ignored or where saying no led to guilt or conflict, you may have learned that boundaries are unsafe. So your nervous system learned something else instead. It learned to please. It learned to stay flexible. It learned to avoid discomfort. That's why setting boundaries now can feel threatening, even when they're healthy. One common misunderstanding is thinking boundaries are harsh, but boundaries don't have to be loud, angry, or confrontational. They can be calm. They can be simple. They can be kind. Healthy boundaries start with awareness. Before you say yes, pause. Notice how you feel. Do you feel exhausted, sad, overworked, irritated, helpless, like you don't really have a choice? These feelings are important. They often show up when you've been giving too much for too long. When you are available all the time, people slowly stop respecting your time, not because they are bad, but because there is no clear limit. Boundaries don't just protect your energy, they teach people how to treat you. And respect grows when your time and energy have a clear value. Another sign is resentment. If you agree to something and later feel irritated or drained, that's often your inner signal saying you went past your limit. Setting a boundary doesn't require long explanations. You don't need to justify your limits until the other person fully understands. A simple sentence is enough. I'm not available for that right now. That doesn't work for me. I need some time to think. Boundaries are about clarity, not control. You're not trying to change other people. You're communicating what works for you. And it's important to remember this. People who respect you will respect your boundaries. People who benefited from you having none may react. They might question you. They might push back. They might act disappointed. That reaction doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It simply means the dynamic is changing. Setting boundaries often brings guilt at first. That guilt doesn't mean you're being selfish. It means you're doing something new. Your system is learning that you can say no and still be safe. Healthy boundaries also protect relationships. When you don't have boundaries, resentment builds quietly. Over time, that resentment can damage connection. Boundaries prevent that. They create honesty. They create balance. They create respect. Start small. You don't need to set boundaries everywhere at once. Begin with one situation where you feel consistently drained. Practice one clear sentence. Hold it calmly. Notice that the world doesn't fall apart. Each time you honor your limit, you build self-trust, and self-trust makes boundaries easier. Remember, boundaries are not walls. They're guidelines that allow relationships to exist without costing you yourself. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to protect your energy. Pause. Breathe. Healthy boundaries are not about changing who you are. They are about finally including yourself in the care you give to others.